This breaking election story begins with Christopher Webb's post on X that starts with, "Holy f***." He goes on to say, "Please make sure everyone you know sees this segment with Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts, the organization behind Project 2025. I'm going to show you the outrageous clip that had Christopher so incensed in a minute, but first a quick breakdown on the Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts, and Project 2025. The Heritage Foundation says it exists to formulate and promote public policies based on the principles of free enterprise, limited government, individual freedom, traditional American values, and a strong national defense." Well, that sounds like a well-crafted mission statement written by a well-paid PR person. Wikipedia, on the other hand, lets the flatulence out of the balloon and simply says the Heritage Foundation is an American conservative think tank based in Washington, D.C. So what exactly is a think tank? I'm glad you asked. The YouTube channel How Money Works perfectly describes it in this clip.
Think tanks are legitimately some of the most powerful organizations you have never heard of. They play a key role in influencing local, state, national, and even global policy by hiring the smartest people in the world and paying them huge salaries to argue their point of view into the ears of people with power. Some of the big think tanks in America have more power over legislation than our elected officials, and have become so integrated into the political process that Washington would grind to a halt without them. It's easy to see why people believe that think tanks are shadowy organizations pulling the strings of power.
And who is Kevin Roberts, president of Heritage Foundation and the man at the center of today's story? The New York Times describes him as the man who wants to institutionalize Trumpism, so obviously he must be stopped. And in this Fox clip, he reveals his blatant Trump loyalism with some kissing of the ring.
The problem is that's yet another example, Brett, of the persecution, not prosecution, of a former president. As I travel the country, Brett, what I hear, including from people who aren't necessarily in Trump's camp politically, is that they see a lot of courage in him. He's got no self-interest in this other than his love for this country.
And finally, what is Project 2025? In this video from Katie Couric entitled "What is Project 2025 and Why is it Dangerous?", Jim Vandehei and Mike Adams of Axios unpack the diabolical plot.
Project you mentioned, Project 2025, part of the Heritage Foundation, like a very well-funded project, and they are pre-vetting thousands of people that could come in to a Trump administration.
But is there cause for concern with this whole plan? I mean, it's not just an ideology. Isn't it sort of fealty at all costs? And how are they looking for people who will fill these important roles?
Total fealty, and they're very clear. It's a loyalty test. Like, it is about, like, what do you think about Donald Trump? And if you can't pass that, you're not going to get into the government. And it's a big deal because we're not talking a couple hundred people. We're talking it could be tens of thousands of people.
So what did Kevin Roberts just say that upped the ante and signaled the extremism we have come to expect? Here's the clip from MSNBC.
Alicia just asked, is your organization going to accept the results of the 2024 election, regardless of the outcome?
Yes, if there isn't massive fraud like there was in 2020.
What does that mean?
If there isn't massive fraud.
So in true Trump fashion, he is signaling that if Trump wins, they will call it a fair election. And if Trump loses, of course they won't accept the outcome and will claim widespread fraud. And if that's not enough, here he says that proof of election fraud is hard to come by. So apparently just repeating the big lie with great conviction is the proof?
By your count, Heritage Foundation has done an investigation, and according to your count, there have been 1,513 proven instances of voter fraud across the United States since 1982.
Yeah, that's probably 1,513. Because they're very hard to document. And
I love that off-screen giggle at the end. Did you hear it?
And
that may be the best hot mic ever.
The Democrat Party is very good at fraud. The key thing here, which I think we would both agree on, is that we aspire at the Heritage Foundation to seeing a poll after this election where every American believes their vote was counted.
Obviously, he's playing the trump card from the bottom of the deck, and that is to seed doubt with sensational stories of conspiracies as a contingency plan, and that way if you lose, you can say, see, I told you so, the fix was in. It looks like Election Day is going to feel like Groundhog Day.
It seems rather than turn this into a partisan conversation, which you do a good job of at MSNBC, we might say we aspire to something more noble, which is that every American believes their vote counts.
I mean, I don't think it's partisan to ask if you will accept the results of the election.
But in fairness to Mr. Roberts, I'll give him the final word.
But at Heritage, we believe in telling the truth with a smile on our face.
Just kidding. That soundbite was too rich not to share for comic relief. And here's Michael Steele with the final word.
I don't think it's time for Trumpism